Sorry. I'd like to call the meeting of the South Windsor Town Council to order, the regular meeting for Monday, February 6th at 7:01. I apologize, I'm a minute late. If I could have, please, the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Can you give us that back to that gentleman, please? Thank you. I have my copy. And then we're going to do a roll call in just a minute, please. No rush, Amanda, you're good.
Councillor Evans,
Here.
Councillor Kaboski, Councillor Lopez,
Here.
Councillor Paterna. Here. Mayor Pendleton,
Present.
Deputy Mayor King,
Here.
Councillor Kutzkowski,
Here.
Councillor Gamble,
Here.
Councillor Leidecker.
Well, good evening. Tonight in my mayor's remarks, I have a few things that I'd like to talk about, and that's the new town hall and annex operating hours. They will start today. They are starting today. So starting today, it is Monday, 8 a.m. to 7 p.m., Tuesday through Thursday is 8 a.m. to 4:30, and Fridays is 8 to 1, just to let everyone know of the new hours. Then we also have Lincoln's birthday on the 13th, and the town offices will be closed. And we have President's Day on the 20th. The town offices will be closed. Then we also have Valentine's Day, and I believe that's the night that we're meeting, our next meeting. Is it on Valentine's Day? No, it's the day after. 2 days? Our meeting's the 21st? Okay, because of President's Day, that's right. Okay, on the 20th. Okay. Well, happy Valentine's Day to everyone in South Windsor. We appreciate you and love you. I don't know. I need some romance in my life. I don't know. Flowers, maybe. I don't know. So now I would like to take my time right now for my mayor's remarks and turn it over to the Deputy Mayor, Stephen King, Jr., who is going to speak a little bit about Black History Month, which is this month.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Before I begin, I would like to make a comment in regards to the absence to Mr. Kabowski. Ever since the Philadelphia Eagles beat his Giants, he seemed to not be in attendance. Hope that's nothing personal.
Oh my gosh. For the record.
So, all jokes aside, the seriousness of the history of Black History Month, I did put a couple of thoughts together that I wrote down and did some research. Dr. Carter G. Woodson was an early scholar of African-American history. He was dubbed the father of Black history. He founded the Association for the Study of African-American Life and History. He launched the Journal of African-American History, which was the association's scholarly publication in 1916, half a century after the 13th Amendment abolished slavery in the U.S. Now, Woodson was determined to dedicate time to celebrating the historic contributions of Black people, leading him to establish Negro History Week in February of 1926. Over the years, the mayor of cities across the nation also began recognizing Negro History Week, and by the late 1960s, catalyzed by the Civil Rights Movement and efforts to transform race relations, Negro History Week evolved into Black History Month for many schools and communities. In 1976, President Gerald Ford, a Republican, officially recognized Black History Month as a national observance, encouraging Americans to seize the opportunity to honor the too often neglected accomplishments of Black Americans in every area of endeavor throughout our history. That said, there are a lot of different places that you can go throughout the state of Connecticut in observance of not only Black History Month, but also in regards to a lot of firsts, whether it's New Haven, West Hartford, Hartford itself, and even, and I was not aware of this, in Canterbury, Connecticut was the first female boarding school that was specific for young African-American women from 1831 to 1834. That said, and in conclusion, Madam Mayor, This is the official message of the observance of Black History Month from the 38th President of the United States, dated February 10th, 1976. In the bicentennial year of our independence, we can review with admiration the impressive contributions of Black Americans to our national life and culture. Over 100 years ago, to help highlight these achievements, Dr. Carter G. Woodson founded the Association for the Study of African American Life and History. We're grateful to him today for his initiative, and we are richer for the work of his organization. Freedom and the recognition of individual rights are what our revolution was all about. They were ideals that inspired our fight for independence, ideals that we have been striving to live up to ever since. Yet, it took many years before ideals became a reality for Black citizens. The last quarter century has finally witnessed significant strides in the full integration of Black people into every area of national life. In celebrating Black History Month, we can take satisfaction from this recent progress in the realization of the ideals envisioned by our founding fathers. But even more than this, we can seize the opportunity to honor the too often neglected accomplishments of Black Americans in every area of endeavor throughout our history. I urge my fellow citizens to join me in tribute to Black History Month and the message of courage and perseverance that it brings to all of us. Again, Gerald R. Ford, 38th President of the United States. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor King. I appreciate your comments in respect to Black History Month. I'm not sure if HRC is doing anything with Black History Month. We could find out later with that. I do have this on my desk. Am I reading this? No, I'm not reading that. Okay, thank you. Okay, I think we're done with my comments. Now we're moving on to adoption of the agenda. Councilor Gamble, please.
I move to
And welcome back.
Oh, thank you. That's what I was waiting for. I move to adopt the agenda for tonight's meeting.
Second.
Is there any corrections, deletions, additions, or any changes to the agenda?
Yes, we do. I do have one, Madam Mayor.
Yes.
If we can please move, I think it's 13A. If we can please move 13A to after the adoption of our minutes of the previous meeting, so after number 8. If we can move 13A to after number 8, please.
Is there a second? Second. All those in favor? Any discussion on that? None?
Aye.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Not hearing any. The motion carries. Moving item 13A after item number 8. And moving on now, there isn't any other additions? Okay, thank you. And now we're adopting the agenda as corrected or changed. What? Yeah, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Not hearing any. The motion carries. Item number 6, please, communications and reports from the town manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm very pleased to inform the council that the town has received recognition from our insurance carrier for innovative methods for managing risk. Over the last few years, the town has implemented a camera and GPS system that monitors driver attention and activity. As a result, the town is now able to monitor driving habits and address safety issues. This system is making both a safe work environment for the staff and a safe community for our residents, and is a model across the entire state. We've heard from a number of other neighboring communities who are interested in that system, and we've been having a good time showing them how it works and the benefits it has for both our employees and the community. In terms of our bond rating and our bond sale, as we've done for the last few years, the town has prepared to issue bonds in order to pay for the referendum-approved school and road projects. This year, we will be issuing $28.5 million in order to meet our cash flow needs. On January 24th, the town was notified by Standard & Poor's that we have been reaffirmed as a AAA-rated community, and specifically, they cited our phenomenal financial health. I'll point out, I've never heard them actually use the word phenomenal in a rating before, so that's pretty good, and it's a testament to the work of the staff, all of you, and many volunteers within our community. This rating will allow us to continue to receive the best interest rates possible. Basically, the day after I wrote this report, I had the opportunity to we actually went out to market and bid out our bonds, that $28.5 million. And as a result, as all of you are aware, we received a pretty favorable interest rate of 3.18%. We had over 18 bidders from all over the world that had the opportunity to bid. That is one of the highest amounts of individuals I've ever seen actually bidding on bonds. And even our financial advisor noted that when we were there. And just to give you kind of a general idea, we expect that we probably saved about 10 basis points because of our credit rating on that bid. So that over the $28.5 million is quite a significant amount. I will just point out on the agenda a little later, we do have a refinancing of some older bonds that gives us the opportunity to potentially save some additional money for the community moving forward, and we'll talk about that there. But I think this is a good basis point to take a look at and build off of for that activity. Also, I wanted to make sure everybody's aware, it was a pleasure to tour the new Pleasant Valley School with all of you on January 30th. I think the most important takeaway from our tour is that this project is currently on time and under budget. This is a testament to the great work of contracts, staff, and volunteers. I think we should all be very excited to see the substantial completion of this building sometime in. And then lastly, I just wanted to bring up, I know we had a conversation about AEDs at your last meeting. I did put a listing on your table. These are all the AEDs we have in town facilities and vehicles throughout the community. We are also going to be adding another 2 to our arsenal. We've identified that there were some AEDs within the community that had some expired parts to them, so you needed to update different pieces of them over time. Those parts had been ordered, but unfortunately, due to supply chain issues, were on back order. So as a result, we'd made the decision to actually buy 2 brand new ones. We'll put them into service, and then when we can get those back ordered parts, we will. And then lastly, I just wanted to make sure everybody was aware, because I know there was some concern, like what if I was out at a sporting event or outside of a building, what would happen? So all of our parks and our concession stands do have AEDs during those events. If there's a tournament that's going on that's hosted by Parks and Rec or some other organization, they will pretty typically bring a AED with them to the field side during those tournaments. And then lastly, if anybody's at Wapping outside doing an event or something of that nature, they can get into that building till 10 o'clock at night. So I don't believe we have any outdoor activities in that general area, but there is an AED right in the front door at Wapping right there. So hopefully that answers the majority of the questions for all of you about the AEDs, and I'd be happy to answer any other questions all of you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Maniscalco. Does anyone have any questions for the town manager? Councilor Gamble.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Maniscalco. Can you just give a quick breakdown of that $28.5 million you said is for school and roads? So it was about $6 million for roads, 20, like what is the?
I don't have the exact number, but the large majority of it is cash flow associated with Pleasant Valley School construction.
And is that the last of it?
No.
For Pleasant Valley, or is this the beginning of it?
That's probably in the middle, I would say.
In the middle?
Yeah, because they're current. So the way you have to do bonding is you never want to over-issue bonds because
Right.
you'll get a penalty. So as we get closer to the end, those amounts will probably get smaller. Typically, what we would have done in the past is we would have issued shorter-term notes and then rolled those notes for the year and then issued them as bonds this year. But because of the way interest rates are, and we thought we wanted to kind of take advantage of what we could while we could, we did a larger issuance of long-term bonds and just said, let's just do it and bite the bullet and make this, kind of move us further down the road. We're probably going to have to issue something next year because of the construction for actually the road referendum and then also Pleasant Valley School. But I think those amounts will be significantly smaller. This is probably one of the larger ones we should have to do.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Councilor Evans?
Thank you, and thank you for this list. I really appreciate this. Excuse me. I just had a couple questions just about the accessibility. You talked about how they are all accessible in the areas they are. I kind of look at 24, 25, 26, 27. And those are places that maybe they are behind a locked door. I think of like the Little League Shack at Ayers Road and how our high school uses that space, maybe a coach or some other activities. like when those are going on, or when the Rye Street Park concession building, when a soccer coach is there with their team, did they all have access to those locked facilities?
I'm not sure who has access to those facilities or not. I'd have to look into that further for you, but I could get you a list of who does.
Okay, yeah, I just think making sure that the AEDs are in a place that they're always accessible. Typically, if someone were to have some type of event that they needed an AED, that timing is really important. So the longer it takes to be able to get to the AED, the person is more at risk of a severe, end result. Additionally, what is the training like for like our Parks and Rec staff and people in the building? I know as a teacher, when I worked in a high school, I can still tell you where the AED is in the high school where I worked. I know that when you use it, it really walks you through the steps. It's pretty clear what to do. But someone not knowing that you just pull it off, open it up, and it walks you through, like that would slow them down to even be able to use it. So are we providing training to make sure they feel comfortable or know where these AEDs are?
Yeah, so we do provide CPR and AED training to our town staff, whether it's Parks and Rec or people that work in this building. I myself actually attended this last year, and they go over the whole process of what you need to do in order to make that machine work, and we went through the actual steps and how to make the pads work and everything else associated with it. So it's offered by a professional company that does CPR training, and we contract with them, and the staff go over to their location in South Windsor and take that training. So
So you say offered. Does that mean that we're not requiring it, we're only
I
offering it?
can't mandate employees to take CPR training unless they're doing some type of job that's a requirement of their job, right? So there's certain employees and certain types of jobs, more like our office jobs in the town hall, where we wouldn't have the ability to mandate somebody take it. But for example, somebody at Public Works or somebody in Parks and Rec, we probably would be able to do that in those instances. And when we are able to, we do.
I mean, are we offering for them to take it like during a work time or something
Yes,
to make
it's
it a little
during
bit more?
working hours,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. And then the last question I had was just about senior housing or housing around town that the town has some stakehold in. Like senior housing, I think of because that is a more at-risk community. Do we have any oversight or liability for having kind of regulations or expectations for those housing facilities to have a certain level of AEDs available
Yeah,
or accessible?
so, I mean, they're a separate nonprofit organization from the town, so we don't have a whole lot of authority to make them do any of those things. That said, they do fall within Department of Housing guidelines, and the State Department of Housing does have some authority over that. So I'm not sure whether they would require them to have AEDs or have somebody on site with training, but that's where they would end up falling under that basket, so.
But we have no connection with that or no oversight or
Not
way to
really.
work with that?
Not much at all.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you for looking into this and
Yep.
look forward to hearing more. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilor Evans. Mr. Maniscalco, are police officers, do they have AEDs in their trunks of their car?
Yes, they do.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Paterno, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First of all, Mr. Maniscalco, congratulations and thanks for your hard work and the town staff in receiving that AAA rating again in terms of our bonding. And then a question about I think tonight we're talking about a $14+ million refinancing of some bonds. Based on this low interest rate, and I'm assuming that 18 bidders means people in the community see this as a very strong town. Otherwise, you have 4 or 5 bidders show up. Am I right?
Yes.
Okay.
We're seen as a very strong community that
Right.
provides a very sure bet when it comes to making a financial commitment.
Right. So is there, with that 14+ million that we're going to refinance, any projection with this low interest rate, what we might save over the life of that bond?
Well, when we get there, we'll talk about it, but we are expecting somewhere between $400,000 and $500,000.
Okay, thank you. And then secondly, I know the Planning and Zoning Commission had an executive session on Tuesday with one of the town attorneys regarding the Geisler's Plaza project. Has there been any resolution or any announcement they've made after that meeting that you know of?
I'm not aware of any announcement after that.
Okay. Is it possible for the town attorney to give us an update on that?
I can ask the town attorney, there's a different attorney than the town
Yes,
attorney that's
right.
working on that case. I can ask if that attorney would be willing to talk to all of you.
Okay,
They may not be because it's really a lawsuit between the
Right.
Planning and Zoning Commission and the developer, so, you know, that it is fairly confidential in that regard.
yeah, well, if you
Fortunately,
could,
we get stuck with the bill.
yeah, if you
so-
could, yeah, we get the bill, right. If you could at least ask if they would meet with us, that would be great. And, you know, I went through the case and all the different motions that have been filed so far. This has been going on for over 2 years. And I think we should be able to find a resolution to get that project moving forward. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Paterna. Councilor Kozakowski?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a quick question about the new town hall schedule for hours. So, correct me if I'm wrong, you're open till 7 on Mondays and close on 1 o'clock on Fridays?
Correct.
What happens on days when there's a holiday on a Monday or Friday when town hall is closed?
We would be closed.
Just be closed, so there'd be no adjustment to the schedule?
No.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Maniscalco, I'd like to revisit the town attorney that's working with the EDC, please, on that lawsuit with the Geislers. And if we could maybe find out about the cost of the attorney for that case, for the fact that we are coming into budget season and we have to decide on an amount for the town attorney's budget. We do have one set for the other town attorney that we have approved and agreed upon his hiring. So maybe we need to get a billing update or something like that so we know where we're headed. So it would be nice if the town attorney could come and speak with us.
Yeah, so I can certainly provide you with an accounting of what we've spent to date on that, and
Okay.
then we can make decisions moving forward from there, I guess. But at this point, you know, the cart's already out of the stable, so I don't know how much we can put back or try to renegotiate.
But going forward, it would be helpful to know. Thank you. Oh, and congratulations on the phenomenal, I'm loving it, phenomenal, the word phenomenal, that's
Heard
fantastic.
them use that word, so.
That's fantastic. And also, I want to agree with Councilor Paterna on all the bids that came in. That proves our town is a financially stable and secure community that they can bet on. We're a sure bet, so that's a good thing. And congratulations for all your financial expertise and working with Ms. Patty Perry up in finance. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
No other questions? We'll move on to item number 7, which is public input for any items on the agenda. Public input shall not exceed 30 minutes. When recognized by me, the speaker shall approach the lectern, give their name and address. Speaker shall avoid personal attacks or impugning or alleging any improper motive to any person. The speakers may address the council on any item that is on the agenda. The speaker shall limit their speaking time to 5 minutes. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak to the council on any item that is on the agenda? Good evening, Ms. Delnicki.
Good evening. I'm here tonight to comment on agenda item number 8, adoption of minutes of previous meetings. These meetings are incomplete. These minutes are incomplete. I have issued a couple of communications to this council, one email and one letter that were also handed out to each member and the clerk of the council, and I've asked that they be made part of the online record. Just to be clear, each time I handed out the communications, I have asked that they be made part of the record so that the residents of South Windsor can see the written words that were sent and handed out to each of you to understand the issue I'm having. Why is it that my email and letter to this council are not included in the minutes as part of the record? What are you trying to hide from the residents of South Windsor? This is not the open government that the residents of South Windsor expect and deserve. Nearly a year ago in public session, I was accused by Councilor Evans of not meeting high standards to serve on a commission that I have served on in the past for approximately 19 years. I have a right, and the people have a right to know what these standards are, and this must be in writing, and it cannot be made up, and it has to be cast in stone. As of tonight, I have yet to receive this definition. Thank you. And I do have one question for the town manager regarding something from his report. The AED list that you just handed out, is that going to be part of the minutes online so the residents can see where the list of AEDs are? I think the residents should have those in the minutes as well, including my letters and email to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to speak to the council on any agenda item? Asking again, is there anyone from the public that would like to speak to the council? Come on up. Good evening, Mr. Edwards.
Good evening. Nothing works today. Hi, Dan Edwards, 131 Hilton Drive, here to speak about item 11A. I'd like to thank the South Windsor Republican Town Committee for nominating me to serve on this commission. Look forward to the opportunity to help the commission meet its stated objectives as a watchdog and sounding board for everyone in the South. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to speak to council on any item on the agenda? Anyone else from the public would like to speak to the council on any items on the agenda? Not seeing anyone, we'll move on to item, get the glasses on. Item 8, Councilor Kabowski, adoption of minutes of previous meetings. I need my glasses. What? He's not here. I need my glasses to look distance. Okay, Councilor Kozakowski.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor. Number 8, adoption of the minutes of the previous meeting, approval of January 17, 2023 Town Council meeting minutes. Be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby approves the minutes of the regular Town Council meeting of January 17, 2023. Motion to approve.
Is there a second? And is there any corrections, deletions, additions? Deputy Mayor King? No? Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Not seeing any, the motion carries. Thank you. Now we're going on to 13A, which is a discussion item. We have a guest here this evening. Councilor Lopez, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. 13A, discussion item, presentation on Capital Regional Council of Governments by Matt Hart, Executive Director.
Thank you, Mr. Hart. Welcome joining us here in South Windsor this evening. We look forward to you speaking to us on some good information.
Good evening. Thank you all for having me. As the mayor and the councilor said, my name is Matt Hart. I'm the executive director of the Capital Region Council of Governments, of which you are a member. And I'm here to provide an update on our activities, take any questions you might have, as well as any suggestions you might have in terms of how we can do a better job serving you. Before I move forward, I'd like to thank the mayor and the town manager for their service on our policy board. We have a 40-member policy board that they're the main governing body for the organization. Their role is similar to the role that you play. I'd also like to thank Bart Pasakonis and Alan Cavanaro, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, for their service on our Regional Planning Commission. Our Regional Planning Commission is comprised of land use representatives from across the region, and they administer our regional plan of conservation development and take action on various referrals that come before them. I'd also like to thank your town engineer, Jeff Doolittle, for his longtime service on our Transportation Committee. And the Transportation Committee does a lot of good work. That's where most of the money is actually at CROG, in terms of helping to administer state and federally funded transportation projects. And then also I wanted to mention that we work very closely with Chief Lindstrom, Scott Roberts, and Walt Summers on public safety and emergency management matters, and they are very helpful in that regard. As a former town manager myself, I was very pleased that you were able to bring Michael here to our region. And congratulations for an excellent job on the bond sale and that bond rating. That's wonderful for your community. Some basic elements regarding the Capital Region Council of Governments. If you're not that familiar with us, we're one of 9 councils of governments here in Connecticut. And we are the largest. We serve 38 municipalities, including the capital city. We go west to Southington, east to Wellington and Mansfield, and then north to Massachusetts in both directions. We have a little under 1 million residents, and the geographic area is a little over 1,000 square miles. So it's good size by Connecticut standards, almost a third of our state's population. We have about 30 employees in our organization. A couple of important functions that we perform. We serve as the Metropolitan Planning Organization, or the MPO for the region. What is that? What's an MPO? It's a federal designation from Federal Highway and the US DOT. And in that role, we administer federal transportation dollars, as well as some state transportation dollars, about $45 million last fiscal year. We also serve as the Regional Planning Agency, which I mentioned earlier, and we administer the Regional Plan of Conservation and Development. And then we provide a set of services, of other services, to our member towns. For example, we have had a regional purchasing coalition in place for decades. And with that coalition, we will vet vendors for commodities, supplies, as well as services. So everything from road salt and grass seed to legal services. We do the pre-bidding, and then you can utilize a vendor off of our list at the price that we have negotiated on your behalf. We have a small but mighty, I'd like to say, public safety and emergency management that works very closely with our public safety community. They also work closely with our public health community. They were very active over the course of the pandemic, and they administer state and federal grants for our public health departments. We prepare an annual legislative agenda, items that are important to our 38 towns, and we represent you at the Capitol and sometimes in DC. And then we serve as a content expert, particularly on transportation planning or land use planning matters. You know, if you've got an issue you're considering, like affordable housing, for example, transit-oriented development, you know, we're here, our staff are able to provide guidance and counsel and advice to your team as well. I want to talk a little bit about some of the current initiatives we have underway, and then I'll wrap up by reviewing the benefits statement that we distributed in your packet. You may have heard of the state's Regional Performance Incentive Program, or RPIP. That is a program in which the state provides 3 years of seed monies to help support or develop a new regional program. CROG, we were just awarded 3 out of 4 grant applications, and we're excited about this. We received a grant to establish a regional program in assessment, a regional program in code enforcement / building inspection, and a regional program in animal control. And with those programs, we will seek to hire staff or contractors that can support the work of our member towns. So for example, if you're going through a period where you need additional building inspection services, we want to be able to support you in that. If you need additional assessment services for some period of time, we want to be able to support you in that regard as well. So that's a project that we're getting off the ground. Secondly, you may have heard about the bipartisan infrastructure law. The state of Connecticut is going to be receiving a little over $5 billion to support the development and construction of infrastructure across our state. And one of the most important programs under the BIL is the Safe Streets for All program, Safe Streets for All. And I just attended a press conference today with Senator Blumenthal and Mayor Aaron Stewart from New Britain, who is our board chair, announcing our receipt of this $1 million grant. And we're going to use the grant to update our safety plan. Why is that important? Because the safety plan becomes the basis of implementation projects. So, for example, a town like South Windsor, when under the Safe Streets for All, you decide to apply for a particular project to upgrade a intersection, for example, maybe there's a roundabout you want to install somewhere, you need to be able to point to the updated safety plan to provide evidence and support for your project. So the federal government is really emphasizing the planning studies in the first year of the bipartisan infrastructure law. And then the implementation projects will follow in the remaining 4 years of the program. So we're very, very involved with this bipartisan infrastructure law, and we added staff to assist our member towns with this program. Want to take full advantage of it because, we don't know when we'll see this opportunity again. A third initiative that we're involved in, and these are all representative of the work we do. We've got a waste management crisis here in our state, here in our region. You're probably all familiar with that. The Mears Waste to Energy plant in Hartford has closed. So our organization, we have hired some outside expertise to develop a set of recommendations for us, both short-term, and then the next phase will be longer-term recommendations. For example, how can we improve on recycling? How can we get organics out of the residential waste stream and the commercial waste stream? So we're actively engaged in that. And then we do any number of transportation studies from year to year, where we look at various corridors. We work on rail trails. For example, we received this past year a $16.4 million grant to design and then construct one of the remaining gaps in the Farmington Canal Heritage Trail over in the town of Plainville. And we're also working on the East Coast Greenway study, which will bring that trail from Simsbury over into Bloomfield, through Hartford, and then connect in East Hartford. So our Western Connecticut trail system will be connected with what we have in Eastern Connecticut. And we'll have one of the most robust multi-trail networks in the entire country once that is complete. I'd now, before I take your questions, I'd like to draw your attention to the benefit statement, which we included in your packet here. And I'm looking at the page that's labeled, the first page, the 5-year membership benefits, where we take a look back over the last 5 years. And your dues for the current year, what you're paying to the Capital Region, is a little under $21,000. And when we look at the 5-year benefits, under our projection, the town received almost $7 million, $6.9 million, and your dues over the course of that period were approximately $103,000. And then we break that out. You see in the categories on the left, everything from transit to our regional purchasing council, and some of this is prorated. And then you see the most substantial projects on the top right-hand section of the page. And most of those are what we call LOTSIP projects. That is the state's local capital improvement program. And Mr. Doolittle, the town manager, and others are very involved in preparing competitive grants on behalf of the town for that funding source. And you can see the grants you've received for Avery Street, the Buckland Road sidewalks, et cetera. And then if you flip the page over, these are just the highlights from the previous fiscal year, where we talk about how we saved our town's money, how we're supporting public safety, homeland security, and public health, how we work to leverage state and federal funding, again, about $44 million in transportation funding last year, and then some of the various planning studies that we have conducted, and some are very close by to your town. So I'll pause there, take any questions you might have, as well as any suggestions you might have as well. We're here we're here to serve you. You know, you're a member of ours, and we're pleased to do that.
Well, thank you. This is very informative, and I like seeing these numbers because it looks like we're making out pretty good for our minimum membership amount that we have. On the RSG, on the front page of the 78,000, what is that? On the graph?
Okay. For the $98,000, Mayor?
No, the 78,000 RSG.
Oh, that is our regional services grant, which we use primarily to support land use projects.
Okay, thank you. I didn't know what RSG stood for. Thank you. And thank you for being with us this evening and speaking us through this and informing us. And I'm going to start with Councilor Paterna. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Hart, for joining us tonight. You said something about waste management, and that's an issue that we have been discussing over the last few years. And one of the discussions we had was with a anaerobic digestion company. And what they have told us after a couple of meetings was it can't really work for them financially if it's just residential organic waste, that you've really got to get commercial properties involved as well. But if we could put a package together, is this something that you might consider as a grant funding project?
Be happy to consider that. Right. We're also looking at a similar project out in the town of Coventry. You may be aware of that along Route 44 as well, near High Tone Farm.
Right.
And one of the key recommendations I think we're going to receive from our study, which we'll be presenting next week, is that we strengthen our existing solid waste authority. So we have the Central Connecticut Solid Waste Authority that's been on the books and in existence for some time, but hasn't done much because of the presence of MIRA. Now that MIRA is ceasing its operations, we want to strengthen our authority, and that authority will be able to bid contracts and provide services to all of its member towns. And we will be looking at options such as that as well.
Okay.
So how we really remove organics from the residential and the commercial waste stream and make it so that you can realize a return on that investment.
All right, thank you. I'm sure we'd be happy to work with you on it, so thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Councilor Paterna. Councilor Evans.
Thank you, and thank you for this information. I am the liaison to the Mass Transit and Commission, and they have actually been looking and trying to figure out some grants that they might be tap into to work on some different transit opportunities for South Windsor. Is this something that they could connect with you, or that you would be able to be a resource for that commission?
Yes, send me an email. Town manager knows how to reach me.
Okay.
And we'll be happy to connect you. So under that bipartisan infrastructure law, there will be funding for what's called microtransit. And I think that probably relates, at least in part, to what you're describing.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Kozakowski.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thanks for presenting tonight and, coming before us. For a long time, I've been impressed with the planning services that Capital Region has been providing us with regards to transportation for a long time, and eventually your housing planning, really stepped up the game. And I do like I don't know if it's a new focus, but the shift on providing municipal services, capitalizing on regionalization where there's economies of scale that can be taken advantage of through that way. So thank you for those things. Something that I'd like you to talk a little bit about, and maybe show us what we're talking about, what efforts you're making towards economic development, and what type of economic development strategies that you're planning for the region, and how they might impact towns like South Windsor. Because as you know, economic development is what we need in town to lessen the tax burden on residences. We need new development. So what are some things that the Council of Governments is doing to help towns like South Windsor in making sure economic development is coming to town and not necessarily just going to Hartford or any of the other big cities?
Yeah, I'm happy to respond to that, Councilor. Thank you for your question. So a couple things we're working on now. We have what's called a Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy, or a CEDS, and we've had one in place for several years now, We're working right now on the required update to that plan. And we're working in collaboration with the Metro Hartford Alliance and various state agencies. That plan is important because you need it in order to be designated as an economic development district for your region. And we've had an application pending in front of the federal government for some time now, and we understand we're close to getting that approved. Under that designation, we will be eligible to apply for more federal economic development funding. A second thing we're doing is we're in the process right now of hiring a director of regional planning and development. We're bringing back a position similar to what we had in years past. And economic development will be under their portfolio. And what I would like to see us do is bring on some dedicated economic development staff, even if it's part-time to start, maybe even an independent contractor to start, but someone who can work on economic development initiatives that cross municipal lines, and also who can develop a set of services for our towns. It could be model regulations and build a recruitment and retention, a business recruitment and retention program for our region overall. Some of the towns like yours are more advanced in terms of the economic development services that you provide, and we want to make sure that we're serving all 38 communities. So those are a couple of things we're involved in.
Very good, thank you.
So more to come.
Sounds great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor King.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Hart, appreciate you being here this evening. Two questions. One, you mentioned very early on in your presentation in regards to, and I just want to make sure that I'm clear on this, so it's you that determines who our vendors are, and then our communities choose from those vendors.
If you wish to do so, Deputy Mayor. So we have this purchasing coalition, and we've got about, I think, 105 members now. So it's most of the state, actually. Mm-hmm. Any municipality in the state is eligible to participate in our program and become a member. And again, we competitively bid all sorts of commodities and supplies as well as professional services. And we work to negotiate the best price for you.
Okay, so is there and I'm concerned in regards to any type of diversity component that may be a part of that. I'm always interested in knowing, for many towns, we keep going with the same vendors over and over and over and over. And sometimes that doesn't allow for new vendors, diverse or not, to come into the picture because we've been working with the same ones for decades. Right. And so I'm wondering, with these dues that we're paying, is there a diversity component to this purchasing criteria that you have that's a part of that we might be able to take advantage of and say, okay, at least we know here, we know at least, I don't know, 3 to 5 out of the 10 may be of a diverse background, whether it's a small business or what have you, that we may be able to also support as a community in South Windsor.
Yes, and that's an important issue and emerging trend in the field of public purchasing, over the last decade or so, as well as sustainability.
Right.
So we periodically rebid all of our contracts on a cycle to make sure that new vendors have an opportunity to participate and provide a competitive bid. So I'll be happy to send more information on that to the town manager, and he can distribute it to all of you, the guidelines under which we operate, and that specifically speak to the diversity issue, sustainability, as well as other important considerations.
Appreciate that. Thank you. The second question I had is another concern that I have here. So I live on Ellington Road, and Ellington at a certain point crosses with Route 5. And at that intersection, right past Coca-Cola and, well, Amazon, whatever they are, we have a variety of accidents. And one of the things that I inquired about probably a couple of months ago is in regards to having a camera there. Because usually what tends to happen is we have an accident, and then there's a report or something that comes out where our police force is asking for anybody that sees anything. 99% of the time, at least not that I'm aware of in any of our reports, Is there something that says, hey, we've had these people speak up to these incidents? Now, that's not a slight on our police force because we have an awesome team. However, based on this infrastructure law, I'm wondering if we can get some money for a camera to be set up there, which I could obviously talk with our town manager about, but since you so presented it, that means that there's could be some money there in regards to getting a camera that's set up there specifically for that reason, so that we don't have to inquire from our residents all the time, did anybody see what happened? Is that something, going along with Councilor Evans, that could be part of that infrastructure?
I don't know off the top of my head if the camera installation would be. I mean, what we're seeking to become eligible would be an upgrade to that intersection, you know, if that's something the town wishes to advance. I don't know if the intersection, if the signal needs any sort of improvements, if any sort of pedestrian safety improvements would be helpful. But I'll certainly look at that as well, to what extent the law covers that type of equipment.
That would be awesome. Thank you, sir. Appreciate your time.
Is there any other questions from the council members? Not seeing any. I'm just going to ask a question when you mention infrastructures. And there's plenty of bridges around the state that might not be in the best shape, that need to be replaced. Is there any advocacy or money or anything to get towns money to help with their bridges?
Yes, there are a couple of bridge replacement programs, and one, perhaps two, under the bipartisan infrastructure law. And that's another reason why we're updating our plan, so that we can identify and help identify infrastructure like that needs to be replaced across our region. Currently, the state does have a list of all bridges across the state and something of a rating. They're a little bit behind in their ratings, but there are some monies available for that too.
I believe we have applied for a grant with that bridge on Pleasant Valley Road. We applied for a grant, yeah. So any monies that we could get to help some of our bridges within our community would be great.
Bridge replacement is often a reimbursable expense under the state LOTSIP program that I talked about earlier.
Great. Well, thank you for coming this evening. I really appreciate you bringing some knowledge to us on what's available to our local towns, the 38 communities within CROG, and looking at everything that you've participated in and working for us. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you, ma'am.
And everyone else is good? Good? Thank you, and have a wonderful evening, and happy Valentine's Day.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Now, going back to the agenda, we have item number 9, which is communication from liaisons, officers, and boards directly responsible to the council. Is there anyone that would like to make a report as a liaison of any of the meetings they have attended? Councilor Evans.
Thank you. So as I mentioned, Mass Transit met. They are looking at what their overall goals and vision are. Set up a time to meet with the town manager to kind of narrow in and get some kind of clarification. They're also looking to the plan for when that comes out to kind of help with that narrowing in on projects that they might look into as well. As I mentioned, they are looking to tap into some grants to try to work on more transit around the town. HRC met, and they were mostly talking about the events they will have upcoming throughout the year. They recently shared some resources with the school system about anti-bullying, and they plan to continue to work on that. The mayor would probably call it the Be Kind events, kindness and building community, looking at how to work together intergenerationally and throughout the community, and that will be later as well in October, as well as they're looking at an event in March. SWAF also met, so forgive me a second. SWAF has a lot going on. The Youth and Family Services is going to have an intergenerational program with Senior Center. They have their Girls Circle program running. School outreach, they're continuing leadership opportunities with students, working on stress reduction with students. Middle school activity night was a success. The library has their registration for February opened. They're having virtual and in-person events. Teen game night and event cooking programs. There was a and victim outreach officer, Ron Little, was in attendance. and they are seeing a reduction in mental health calls, so that's a great news. Also, from the youth in attendance, they spoke to how the high school has finished midterms. The atmosphere in school is more positive. They're working with SAD and an upcoming domestic violence discussion. Also collaborating with Interval House and working on events for domestic violence and adult support groups. They're also doing on April 11th a bingo and breakfast fundraiser at 8 a.m. at the community center. So mark your calendars for that.
Thank you, Councilor Evans. Any other reports? Councilor Kozakowski?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to report that the Planning and Zoning Commission had 2 meetings since our last meeting. The first one was, as Councilor Paterna mentioned, they had an executive session to discuss pending litigation, so I don't have a report on that specifically. But they also had another meeting on January 24th. I lost my notes. And of kind of interest of the council and the general public, they did have an update on their draft regulations for warehouse uses. As we're all aware, there's a current moratorium for new warehouse facilities in town, and the purpose of that moratorium is so they can look at that use holistically and figure out the best way to regulate it. And within their discussion, they talked about buffer requirements, special exception requirements, outdoor storage, parking, screening, and bonding as topics that are going to be addressed in proposed regulations. I don't know if they are publicly available right now, but if they are, they would be on the Planning and Zoning Commission's website under pending applications. So if it's not up there yet, it probably will be soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Kozakowski. Deputy Mayor King.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I attended the Water Pollution Control Authority meeting on February 3rd. I've been in attendance at that meeting several times. However, one of the things that I do want to bring up that has come to our attention on more than one occasion, and just to let our community know, is in regards to the odor control improvement updates that are surrounded by the sewer plant. I've received emails and phone calls, which I'm very thankful for, from Ms. Glass from the Wood Memorial Library, as well as from Ms. Jean and several other residents off of Main Street. So just as an update for our minutes, as well as for our community, again, thank you for making us aware. We have been, especially from a liaison standpoint, but in terms of making the council aware of what's going on, I do know that we do currently have odor control improvements of $600,000, but the project is going to be changing as things develop. I have been in touch with our Senator Anwar. I know that he is working with our town manager as well as Mr. Manfree in regards to going after bonding as well as some grants to make sure that we have the funds necessary to go for that top level fix that was recommended. No guarantees, obviously, but we are more than aware, and now that I have been made aware that we are going after that money, again, I just spoke to Senator Anwar today, and so he is all over it in terms of getting us, because at this particular point, we're probably talking about, well, it was $1.2 million last year when they first did the survey, which cost us $40,000. And based off of that survey that was done last year, we're probably looking a little bit over $2 million that I know that the senator, as well as the town manager, as well as Mr. Manfree, are going after to make sure that our citizens are smelling the flowers instead of smelling the sewer. So we're going after those money.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor King. Yes, I did sign the letter last week in support of going after the bonding for that, along with Mr. Maniscalco and Mr. Steve, Chairman of the Water Pollution Control. Steve Wagner. Mr. Steve, there you go. Yes, we signed the letter to send that off for the bonding. Thank you. Is there anyone else? Are you on committee? Yes, now I'm moving on to committees. Reports from committees. Go right ahead. Councilor
Thank you, Madam
Paterno.
Mayor. I just want to announce that the Energy Committee on March 13th will be sponsoring a community forum on energy initiatives and incentives available through state and federal funding for residents in town. So it'll be held in this room Town Council Chambers, 7 o'clock, Monday, March 13th. Hope you can all attend. Thank you.
Thank you. Will there be information there about solar and other opportunities for folks? Okay, great, thank you. And is there a way that we can get that on our town website, Mr. Maniscalco? Great, thank you. Moving on to item 11, first reading, Councilor Paterna.
First reading is a motion to approve items 11A1, 11A2 as the first reading on the consent agenda. This appoints Mitchell Marks to Park and Rec and Jan Tar to the Housing Authority.
Is there, thank you. Any discussion? Not hearing any. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Not hearing any. The motion carries. Councilor Gamble, could you please read the next ones?
Motion to approve items 11A3 and 11A4 as a first reading on the consent agenda.
And that's for Mr. Edwards to the Human Relations and Badan Maksamukic to the Mass Transit. I apologize for messing up that last name. And is there a second? And any discussion? Not hearing any. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Not hearing any. The motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen. Moving on to, there is no 11B for a second reading. No 11C, there is none. Unfinished business, there is none. We've already done 13A with our speaker from CROG. Now we're on 13B. Councilor Evans.
Thank you. Discussion item, making amendments to the Open Government Initiative. So you have in front of you or in your packets the initial Open Government Initiative from December 2019, as well as a new version that would change it from requiring it to be a live stream in council chambers. I believe that was one of the major changes, as well as listing out these new commissions that we would be adding in, and kind of going through the need of the video recording, as well as the need of the town staff to upload and make those available to the public. This is, at this point, we expected to have back from the commissions a response of how they would like this to roll out, or who would like to go earlier versus later. Because of the timing of getting that out and the timing of the calendar of meetings, we have not really gotten all of the responses. So the plan is to push it out to early next week so that we will have those responses for our following meeting, as well as a draft schedule of when these commissions would come on board. But in the meantime, there is a draft resolution that we can look at tonight. I'm sure Councilor Kozakowski has some recommendations. As I was writing it, I thought of you and your, wordsmithing. So maybe he doesn't. But so just some things to go through. Additionally, I did notice that we missed the Mass Transit and Highway Development Commission. So we will need to also have the clerk of the council include them in our next email to review when they will roll out or become involved in this. So I guess mostly it is just if anyone has any recommendations or questions about this at this point, that we wanted to start editing it.
Councilor Kozakowski.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Apparently pressure's on and I have to sharpen my pencil, but that's okay. I'm always happy.
Oh, my word.
So I guess my only question or I guess request is that so the new commissions that would be affected by this resolution, what I would want is to ensure that these commissions are had at least a discussion of this in their regular meetings and have some sort of, and get some sort of sense of them, in writing, whether they, support, doing this type of endeavor, these new requirements, and that they have the capability and desire to do that. Because I do know that part of this, while it's to encourage, the public to provide additional accessibility to, and encourage public to view and, provide comments on this. One thing that we don't want to do is discourage anybody from wanting to fill any sort of vacant positions on these. Because I know that a lot of people just aren't, ready for the camera. They don't want to do business on camera, whether they're just nervous at that. I'm sure we're all nervous at one point, but we're seasoned, so we're comfortable. But I don't know if everybody else would be. So I just want to make sure that before we kind of force them to do something, that they are, on board with it.
So if I can kind of address this. Oh, please. So there have been some that have expressed maybe they're not comfortable with the technical aspect. So Mr. Roberts is actually going to go and kind of show them that technical piece and how that will work. So we're willing to work with them throughout as we need to, the IT department. And it is a kit that has a fully self-explanatory system. As far as comfort with going on the videos, I do think back to when we started the initial Open Government Initiative, and there was a very high level of discomfort. And it has gone very well with Planning and Zoning and with Park and Rec Commission. I will say the pandemic actually pushed all of us to have to be on camera. So we've all kind of done it, been there, and I know we've kind of gotten away from it a little bit, but I think from what we've seen from Park and Rec and what we've seen from Planning and Zoning, it's very effective, it's very helpful. You can hear or see who is talking rather than just hearing a voice if you're listening to a recording. It does give that more accessibility to what's happening in a meeting. There was one commission that did express some concerns, which I can either have Mr. Roberts address them now, or we could wait, depending on. So one commission did express just concern with the security of the digital media piece and what would be done with that, the personal identifiable information. And in this case, I should have Mr. Roberts. I don't know if you want to come up and address this, Mr. Roberts. As far as when we're recording and it's on that drive, what is done with that drive, where is that information stored, who can access it, how is it uploaded on the website? So that was really their questions.
We're going to conduct those meetings just like we do this one. Excuse me. And I would certainly encourage anybody that's in a public meeting not to provide personal identifiable information about yourself. That's your social security number and stuff like that. You wouldn't want to do that. In a meeting like this, it is just a public meeting, so we would handle all other public meetings just like we do this one, Planning and Zoning and Park and Rec. The information is stored on our server, uploaded to the website, and it's maintained on the website for prosperity, whatever we need to with regards to state librarian retention records.
So those were their basic concerns, and we had even discussed, if someone wanted to come to any of our commission meetings, they could videotape us in those meetings if they so chose. So this actually, if you're thinking about it in that sense of a risk, this actually protects us in some sense because we have that video document that is going to show what actually happened versus if someone were to bring their own version for it.
Right, we'll store the video on our servers for approximately 6 months. This is about the storage that we can maintain for all these meetings. Then we'll have an official copy. In case another copy of the meeting were to be out there in the public that may be slightly altered, modified, or changed, we could at least go to our authoritative source, the one we created, and show that as our evidence of the meeting. And then we could possibly deal with the other one if we needed to, or legally if we could.
And I think too, we have expressed to a couple of the commissions that if they don't feel comfortable using this equipment, this space would be available if we could make it work in the schedule, as well as the Madden room. Those are available. I think most people will probably be more comfortable with setting up their own camera and having it uploaded later, versus I think this is probably more intimidating to people to be sitting here, knowing the cameras are on you, and with this setup versus with just a little camera in the room wherever you're set up, so.
Right, the whole objective of this was to find a solution that was inexpensive and simple to use, which would allow the committees to meet in their desired location, whether it be at Wapping, the Madden Room, well, the Madden Room is filmed, but the Sprinkle Room, or any other public gathering point that you could meet. This is just a camcorder, digital camcorder that probably the vast majority of the public here in South Windsor owns, or a phone. And all you basically do is you set it up, you aim it at your target audience, and hit record. When the meeting's concluded, you hit stop. You turn it back in the next day to the town manager's office, and the staff liaison for that board and commission that does the minutes will take the video off and upload it onto the website. That's the whole process from start to finish.
Yes, I'm sorry, Counselor Gamble.
Thank you. So, Mr. Roberts, just to clarify, you have two of these setups, correct? In case one is in use, we need to have a backup in case one fails, or we need to have a second one in case there's two meetings on the same night, so.
I will clarify you. Yes, you approved us to buy two.
Okay.
We own one. One is somewhere between the manufacturer in China and South Windsor.
The tracking on that is spectacular.
Yeah, so
Was
at
attached,
some point,
was attached to that balloon.
yes,
Attached to the balloon.
at some point, we will have a second unit available. That is our goal.
I just want to make sure that that message was
And
received.
if we got in a pinch, we have a camera for G Media that we use to film the 175th. It's a little bit more high-tech than the versions that we bought for these meetings. That could be used in a pinch if we need to until the other unit arrives from China.
Thank you. Counselor Kozakowski.
Thank you. Two things. First question, are some of these commissions spelled out here, do they not have staff assisting at the meeting? Or do all of them have, an employee, liaison?
I don't think so.
I mean, I can speak for two of them that I know they do not, that I am liaison. But it would be the responsibility of the chair or vice chair or whoever they designate to pick it up. We talked about having a Dropbox site at the EOC Center that they could drop it off and pick up in a safe manner.
Yeah, we could do that. We can have them pick it up at the town manager's office. And like I said, more than happy to have one of my staff attend their first meeting, just so that they're not uncomfortable unboxing it, putting it on the tripod, aiming at the body, and hitting record.
Okay, okay, thank you. And then, in addition, a suggestion, in addition to training of how to use the equipment, I think it might be beneficial to some of the members to have a little refresher on, I don't know a better way to say this, but what's inappropriate to talk about at a meeting, some things that might be confidential information, that might be more reserved for an executive better setting would be an executive session. I just don't want to create a situation where now people are seen talking about something that, whether intentional or not, talking about something that's inappropriate for that meeting setting. So, is there some sort of like mechanism to get that sort of training?
Yeah, so every couple of years, we typically have our town attorney come in immediately following the election to do some type of a Robert's Rules, FOI, what's right, what's wrong to talk about training for all our boards and commissions. So we haven't had that since the last election. We're obviously due with the new election, with the next election that would come up in November. So that was kind of our game plan to do something then. I think we may have some video of FOI and Robert's Rules training from the previous town attorney that we could probably get out to people if they were interested in watching it at home. Probably I believe she touches on some of those things, but doesn't get it to the in-depth kind of stuff you're probably looking for, but it may be a good interim solution possibly.
Okay, so yeah, so short of getting the town attorney before these boards and commissions, just it might be not on schedule, but I think it'd be beneficial to get them on before we adopt something like this, if we so choose to. but at the very least, providing that materials would be very good.
The only thing that I would say is I believe all these boards and commissions are already audio recorded. So they're still conducting their meetings and they know what they should and shouldn't be saying. And that record is being posted up on the website already. The only thing that you really can't tell is if you don't really know who's speaking and you're good with their voices, you may not know who said what, but they did say something. So it is in the recording and in the record and then is put into the minutes. So I think the boards and commissions are probably pretty good, but we can certainly look at that training.
Okay, got it.
Thank you. And Councilor Paterno?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. One by way of a reaction. I know when we first started this, there were a number of residents who were served on boards and commissions who contacted me and said, you know, I resisted it, but it's not as bad as I thought. So I think people are getting a little more comfortable. And then secondly, is the equipment in the Madden Room actually functioning now?
It is functioning, and
Great.
if the meeting is in there
Great.
and we have the proper staffing, we can record that room as well.
Okay, thank you.
And I think a lot of people have gotten really accustomed to being on camera. Everybody has used personal Zooms to stay in contact with loved ones across the country during the pandemic and holidays. People have gotten comfortable with FaceTime. So although I do agree with you when we first started talking about this, myself included, didn't like to be on the camera, and I can see one right there. But you kind of forget it when you're having your meeting and you're having a dialogue. And when somebody else watches it, even if you watch it back, it's important to see who said what. I listen to you guys every 2 Mondays, and I've gotten good at knowing your voices. But when I listen to planning and zoning or some of the other commissions, it's hard for me to physically pick up and say who said what. So then I have to have the minutes, and I'm going back and forth and trying to figure out, was it Bart? Was it somebody else that said something? So I think having the video is a really beneficial tool to understanding what government's doing.
Thank you. Any other comments? Not hearing any. So Councilor Evans, the documents that you gave to us, you're looking for, what are you looking for? Are you looking for updates in the changes, or you want to leave it that way? You want to us accept your update? How would you like to proceed?
So I think it would be really helpful to the three of us that have been working on this to get some feedback
Okay.
on this draft of the new version of the Open Government Initiative. I haven't talked to the other two, but my goal was to try to have us meet between responses from the commissions and our next council meeting to try to create that draft schedule. And if we have suggestions of changes, then we could do those before our next meeting as well, and then talk about this further at our next meeting.
Okay, so everyone can submit their changes or suggested changes before the next meeting. That's what you're looking for? Okay. Councilor Gamble?
I'm good with that. I was gonna just comment on your comments around, were you wanting those into the initiative, or just make that like a process that we would follow? And just like, I didn't know if you wanted those actually in this draft, like around the training and that kind of thing, or.
I would think that, no, I don't think that would need to be language in, I don't know, that's a good question. Would we want to have maybe some whereas clauses where training will be provided, X, Y, Z as a whereas clause? That could be something to.
Training is provided, just to let you know, at the FOI training, when the town attorney comes and goes over Robert's Rules of Order in the FOI, every board and commission member is invited to attend that. And I will tell you that it hasn't been successful a lot with a lot of the boards and commissions. But I also like to say that we're liaisons on all the boards and commissions. So we can help out our folks when we go to our meetings. We can discuss it with them. We can support this process by explaining to them, you're already talking on video and recording, so now it's just a picture of who's saying what. So there is no change. And what I've heard so far, I am the liaison to the Patriotic Commission, is that they don't feel that they're experienced enough to handle the technology. So we are having someone come to help them, to teach them how to do it. So they don't have, just to give them a little bit of ease and comfort. And so we can work with our boards and commissions, and we as the liaisons, can certainly speak with them if they have any questions or concerns. And that's something that we can also put in any recommendations or talk to the three of you or speak with the town manager or whatever we need to do to address anyone's needs. You know, so I think we're good until the next meeting, and we can submit our suggestions to Councilor Evans. Okay, so thank you. Is there any other questions or discussion on this? Not hearing any? Deputy Mayor King, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Resolution with respect to the authorization, issuance, and sale of not exceeding $14,500,000 to the Town of South Windsor General Obligation Refunding Bond.
You got this.
Jeez. Whereas, not exceeding $14,500,000 general obligation refunding bonds, the quote-unquote refunding bonds of the Town of South Windsor, Connecticut, the quote-unquote town, or so much thereof as the town manager and town treasurer shall determine to be necessary, are hereby authorized to be issued to refund all or any portion of any one or more series of the town's outstanding general obligation bonds, i.e. the quote-unquote refunded bonds, to achieve net present value savings and/or to restructure debt service payments of the town. The refunding bonds shall be issued and sold in either a negotiated underwriting or a competitive offering as determined by the town manager and town treasurer to be opportune for the town. If the refunding bonds are sold in a negotiated underwriting, the town manager and town treasurer shall appoint the managing underwriter. The refunding bonds shall mature on such date or dates and in such amounts as shall be determined by the town manager and town treasurer in accordance with the provisions of the Connecticut General Statutes as amended, and shall bear interest payable at such rate or rates as shall be determined by the town manager and town treasurer. The refunding bonds shall be executed in the name and on behalf of the town by the manual or facsimile signatures of the town manager and town treasurer, bear the town seal or facsimile thereof, and be approved as to the legality by Robinson & Cole LLP Bond Counsel. The refunding bonds shall be general obligations of the town, and each of the refunding bonds shall recite that every requirement of law relating to its issue has been duly complied with, that such bond is within every debt and other limit prescribed by law, and that the full faith and credit of the town are pledged to the payment of the principal thereof and the interest therein. The aggregate denomination, form, details, and other particulars thereof, including the terms of any rights of redemption and redemption prices, the designation of the certifying, paying, registrar, and transfer agent, shall be subject to the approval of the town manager and the town treasurer. The net proceeds of this sale of the refunding bonds, after payment of the underwriter's discount and other costs of issuance, shall be deposited in an irrevocable escrow account in an amount sufficient to pay the principal of interest and redemption premium, if any, due on the refunded bonds to maturity or early redemption pursuant to the plan of refunding. The town manager and town treasurer are authorized to appoint an escrow agent and other professionals and to execute and deliver any and all escrow, investment, and related agreements necessary to provide for such payments on the refunded bonds and to provide for the transactions contemplated hereby. The town manager and town treasurer are authorized to prepare and distribute preliminary and final official statements of the town for use in connection with the offering and sale of the refunding bonds, and to execute and deliver on behalf of the town a bond purchase agreement, a continuing disclosure agreement, a tax regulatory agreement, and such other documents necessary or desirable for the issuance of the refunding bonds and the payment of the refunded bonds. The town may issue taxable bonds or notes as the issuance of such taxable bonds or notes is hereby determined to be in the public interest. And whereas this resolution shall be effective until January 1st, 2024. And now, therefore be it resolved, the town council authorizes the issuance and sale of not exceeding $14,500,000 Town of South Windsor general obligation refunding bonds. Through you, Madam Mayor.
Take a breath. Thank you. Is there a second? Okay, Mr. Maniscalco, would you like to speak on this, please?
Sure, thank you, Madam Mayor. So, first of all, as you can see, we got our legal money out of this, and the way we have to do this, we have to have our bond attorney write the resolution, because there are very specific languages that needs to be. Essentially what happened is our financial advisor, our finance director, and myself sat down, and we went through some of our past issuances, and we did this about a year ago, a similar scenario. And at this point in time, we found about $14.5 million worth of bonds that have come to the point where we could call them and we can refinance. We could either pay them off or we could refinance them. The GFOA, the Government Finance and Accountability Office, has certain requirements that they put out there that you have to be able to meet in order to refinance those bonds. And part of that includes being able to save enough money for the municipality. So we found the $14.5 million. We reviewed what we thought we could potentially save based upon our actual results of our most recent bond sale and some other recent bond sales prior to. And we came down to the conclusion that we could potentially save about $400,000 to $500,000, which certainly surpasses the threshold of the GFOA and would allow us to be able to go out to market and refinance these. The $14.5 million has a rate that spreads across the board from, I believe, around 2.5% to 5%, because they're variable rates over the lifespan of those 20-year bonds. And basically, the higher rates tend to be towards the end. So you're taking things that are currently at a higher interest rate and potentially financing them at a lower rate moving forward. So that's kind of how you end up with those savings, and we get to be able to put that together. I'd be happy to answer any additional questions.
Thank you, Mr. Maniscalco. Councilor Gamble.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I'm trying to relate this to my house refinance. Bear with me. So I took out a 30-year mortgage for $300,000. After 10 years, the rates go down. I then refinance, but then I refinance for another 30 years. So it seems like I'm saving money, but I'm really not. I'm just still elongating it to save money. Is that kind of what we're doing here?
A little bit, but you're not refinancing the whole amount. You're refinancing a smaller amount.
Right. I've paid down $100,000, say, on my mortgage. So I'm refinancing $200,000, but I'm refinancing it over a longer period of time. So it seems like I'm saving more money. Is that so? We're refinancing it for a longer period of time again?
Yeah.
Like
Well, not a longer.
The original 20.
Yeah, that's all municipalities typically do is 20.
How much have we paid down on this? It's probably a bunch of different, right, bonds all mixed up here.
It's all over the place.
So some could be 5 years left, some could be 10 years left, some could be 15 years left. We're going to combine them all and then,
Yep.
and then refinance for a whole another 20.
Yeah.
I don't know where to
Makes
go with
your
that.
head spin. I know, because there's multiple issues from
Right.
Multiple years. So.
Any other questions? Councilor Kozakowski.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I'm trying to wrap my head around this too, because this is not my area of expertise. So, so the $400,000 to $500,000 savings, that would be over what time period?
Over the 20-year life.
Over the next 20 years.
Correct.
Are there any increase in costs or non-savings spending this year or over the next year associated with this that might be recouped over the next 20 years, but something that we have to deal with through the budget or otherwise?
So really the only thing that we're going to have to pay in order to pull this all together is about $3,000 for the Standard & Poor rating. So since we were just rated, we're going to kind of piggyback off of that most recent rating, and we would have to pay them an extra $3,000 for that second rating. Outside of that, it really doesn't cost us a whole lot. And if we do get to market, and let's just say it's some wild day and the market comes back and we're looking at, 10% interest rates, and all of a sudden that $500,000 that we thought we would save over the lifespan of those bonds is no longer there, we can turn around and say no. So we still do have that option available to us.
It's a good plan.
But really, we're looking at $3,000.
$3,000. So about the same price as if Councilor Gamble wanted to refinance his house. The town, $300,000 house, we refinance $4.5 million. Sounds like a good deal, thank you.
Are we good? Anyone else have any other questions? Okay, good. All those in favor? Any opposed? Not hearing any, the motion carries. Thank you.
And I'll be happy to let you guys know what the results are after.
Thank
we
you.
get there.
And now we are on item 14, passage of ordinance. There is none. Item 15, public input on any matter. Public input for any other matter shall not exceed 30 minutes. We recognize by the mayor, the speaker shall approach the lectern, give their name and address. Speakers shall avoid personal attacks or impugning or alleging any proper motive to any person. The speaker may address the council on any item. The speaker shall limit their speaking time to 5 minutes. Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak to the council on any matter that is not on the agenda? What? You have a list? I don't understand.
You gotta hit the, Kenny, can you hit the button? Hit the microphone button. There you go.
Okay, what I'd like the town manager in town.
Sir, excuse me, could you identify yourself, please, and where you live?
Kenny Young, 595 Avery Street, South Windsor.
Thank you.
Okay, I would like the town manager and the town engineer to go out in front of my house and do the leveling on the guardrail because it's in the road. I've been fighting this forever, but have him in the town surveyor go and check it so I have it for records because it's in the road. That's all. And then the town people have to go, they fall in the brook. That's real bad too. When they're mowing, I would like every one of you guys to go see what you make these people mow. It's a cliff like this, and that's the worst. And we paying, the town has, the town go over there because they couldn't do it because they put the guardrail in the way. So now the town pays the town to go mow when they were never mowing ever before. It's in the way for everything, the snow removal. Everybody says, I don't know. Nothing you guys thought.
Thank you. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. My name's Randy Olson. I live at 904 Avery Street in South Windsor. I'm a friend of Kenny, and he has been having an issue, and I have recently visited that guardrail. It's about 200 feet on the east side of Avery Street, abutting the brook that runs down through there, Avery Brook. And there is a pretty significant bank that the town has been mowing, but there's not a lot of space between the guardrail and a light post and the brook. You can see damage on the guardrail from town equipment that's hit it on the inside, the sidewalk side of that guardrail. You can see damage on the street side from where the snowplows are hitting it. The snowplows are having trouble getting the snow up over that guardrail. I'm not sure exactly why the guardrail was put there, but it really belongs on the other side of that sidewalk if you are looking to prevent people from falling down that little bank or whatever. Also, that light post, either end of that guardrail is not lit. So you're walking in the dark down this sidewalk till you get to the center, and then you have a street light overhead. Also, he has trouble backing out of his driveway because the guardrail, it's only an inch, but it encroaches the street. It's not supposed to overhang the curb. Your tires are supposed to hit the curb before you hit the guardrail. And in the case of this guardrail, you're going to hit it first. That's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else from the public that speak to the council on any item that's not on the agenda? Good evening, sir.
Good evening. How you doing?
Wonderful, thank you. How are you?
Good. My name is Christopher Mathis, and I live here in South Windsor. And I'm concerned about the dump trucks that be running up and down Rye Street Road, going to the quarry out there in East Windsor. Is it any other way or direction that they could take instead of coming down Rye Street or taking Plantation Road or something, or making it much easier, because they be going up and down the street just like a highway. Sometimes it be 2 or 3 dump trucks running up and down the road. They just come up constantly, and I think they be taking the load over to Pratt and Whitney, because you can see them going down Route 5, turn down Sullivan, then turn down Rye Street. And I feel sorry for the people that works at night and they can't get no sleep because these dump trucks be going up and down using a J brake and everything. And I wanted to know, could the mayor, the manager, the counselor could do something about this problem here?
Sir, are you saying dump trucks? Dump trucks are going up and down Rye
Dump
Street?
trucks.
Okay.
And I'm concerned because I'm a taxpayer here.
I got you.
And, you know, it's tearing up our streets. You know, the road, you might have to repair some streets. And they got heavy loads going up back and forth to the quarry up there in East Windsor there. So, you know, it just don't make no sense. And then you got Rye Street Park there. You have kids playing basketball over there. You know, it just sometimes they in a hurry just to make money. You know, you need to check the speed sometimes going past Rye Street Park there. And I'm very concerned about it. And it's just a noise maker.
Thank you. Thank you for
Thank you.
coming to let us know. Mr.
And
Maniscalco, could you give Mr. Mathis your information? He can give you a call and get more details on the situation?
Certainly.
And I'm also
Mathis, I'd like for you to call the town manager, and he
Okay.
can get more details on what's going on.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for coming this
I would
evening,
have
sir.
more information for him as well, because we've already
There you
been
go.
working on it.
All right.
Thank you, sir, for coming out this evening.
All right, I am a Dallas Cowboy fan too.
You're so fresh, okay. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to speak to the council on any item that is not on the agenda?
Hi,
Good evening.
Dwight Johnson, 84 Bryan Road. A couple of things happened to me last week. Kenneth Young came over to my house. He brought up the guardrail issue. He asked me to come over. I did. I looked at it. He's got some valid points. Also with the lighting issue. And if you're out at night and you want to go for a walk on your sidewalk, that totally blocks his property, so he can't walk out without going down the street where the lights aren't and it's dark. So he's got some valid points, and it made me think more about housing, because I am a housing commissioner, chairman of the board for senior housing. And Flax Hill is another place where they desperately need some sidewalks. I mean, they only have the little walkway in the areas where they live. And a lot of the people, a few years back when they were paving the road, wanted to come out and go to IHOP. Well, that's less than a half a mile long. I checked the mileage today. And there is some swampland there. It looks like swampland to me. I went by it today and I looked over. Probably be some of the issue, but really, it would be worthwhile. And I did talk to some business people. I thought, you know, it'd be pretty good for business to have the seniors enjoy a breakfast or lunch and, or go to the plaza. And so I thought that would be a great idea. And then I talked to some business people and they said, what South Windsor needs to do is have a committee for sidewalks and put these things on agendas and make things happen for the people. This Avery Street issue on 595 Avery Street for Kenneth Young, one of my ideas, this is my idea only, would be cut an access hole in the center of it so we can walk directly from his house onto the sidewalk. Because that's where the lights are. The lights shine down on the guardrails. And then when you go past the guardrail, it's dark. So those are my ideas, and I'm just hoping that South Windsor comes up with a sidewalk committee, someone that can actually study these things and make some progress. Our town's growing, thank God it is. And I want to see the children and people safe. So that's my interest. Thanks. You're doing a great job. Very
Thank you,
nice.
Mr. Johnson. Thank you, Dwight. Appreciate it. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to speak to the council on any matters not on the agenda?
Hello, John Burrell, 20 Willow Street.
Thank you for
South
joining
Windsor.
us.
Kenny asked me to stop by today and talk about his guardrail issue. My street is parallel, I never go by it, but just the other day, it was dark out, 'cause I work early in the morning, and I drove by it, and I saw the guardrail, and I went around the block a second time, saw the guardrail was just, I said, why is there a guardrail here? And Kenny was talking about that there's an embankment over there, so guardrail is like on the curb, and to me, don't know the other reasons, but to me, it looks like the guardrail should be protecting the sidewalk people while you're walking the guardrail or whatever, so people don't go down the embankment there. So I think the guardrail's in the wrong spot. So I think Kenny's looking for input from the town people to observe it, look at it, and see what makes sense. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to speak to the council? Mr. Young, another time.
I'm gonna tell you, hey, but just on this last paper that the state gave me, it says the sidewalk should be on the back side of the sidewalk. That's from the state of Connecticut. And I've been fighting forever. But state says, this way you would have the snow shelf. There's no snow shelf. It should all been moved over. If you come by, I'll show you. And I would like every one of you to go see what you make these people mow. I would like an answer from every one of you on that question of the mowing.
Thank you, Mr. Young. Is there anyone else from the public? Is there anyone else from the public? Not hearing anyone. We're moving on to item, I got to get to my page, sorry. Moving on to communication, item 16, please. Communication from the council. Councilor Paterna.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A few weeks ago, the chair of the Park and Rec Commission, Mr. Toby Lewis, lost his wife. And I want him to know that the town council sends his condolences, our condolences to him and our sympathies to him. I know this is a difficult time for him, but I want him to know that we're thinking about him. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor Paterna. Councilor Gamble.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I normally do not bring my phone up at a meeting, but this was an email I received from Parks and Rec, and it sort of ties into what Mr. Hart said earlier, the executive director of CROG. South Windsor Walk and Wheelways, they're a subcommittee of Town Parks and Rec, and they're applying for a federal and state grant to be able to create a 6.2-mile multi-use recreational trail that will run through South Windsor following the Eversource Power Lines corridor. Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection, DEEP, they designated this section of the corridor as CT Greenway on June 2nd, 2017. The trail will allow safe south-north travel across our town for all pedestrians and non-motorized forms of transportation. The reason I'm telling you all this is because they're asking for our help, the citizens' help, to send an email or a letter expressing our support for this project, because it goes a long way in helping the town secure these funds from the state for this grant. So it's a good project, and I implore anybody who's still with us tonight to reach out to Molly Keys and get more information on who to send this information to. And then I do have a second one. So we've been talking a lot about the roads project today and sidewalks and things like that, and I do hope that with our Pave for Progress, is that the name of that? That we do look at some of these funky intersections around town, like the ones by, Ellington and Governor's Highway, which I believe you expressed concern over at one point, and if there's a way we can not just pave them, but make them safer for all residents. There are a couple of really bad intersections around that with the increased truck traffic and other, cars and increased population that they really need to be taking a look. So I'm hoping that that's part of this first phase. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilor Kozakowski.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to share, I had the personal privilege today to be able to go to my son's first grade class at Orchard Hill. They were finishing up a unit on urban, suburban, and rural communities. So I thought it was a great opportunity to talk to them about that, as I did with two of my daughters when they had the same unit in first grade. So we had a great time talking about the characteristics of what an urban community looks like and what a rural community looks like and suburban community. And they all easily recognize that South Windsor is, more of a suburban community than anything else. But I also reminded them that we're a little bit rural too. We do have farms, some farms, active farms that, would classify it as rural. And we do have a lot of open spaces, a lot of woods, that would fall under their characteristics of a rural community. So just had that experience, and we were able to discuss, planning and what goes into making a plan, and we went through that exercise, and we went through an activity where we held a charrette, as I described, a fancy word that describes people telling you what you want to see. So we held a charrette to discuss building a new park here in town. So we went through and discussed all the things that these 7- and 8-year-olds would want to see in a town park. And we came up with 30-something odd ideas. And we went through the exercise of, well, realistically, we can't fit everything into a park, or nor can we fund everything that we would want. So everybody went through and picked their favorite things and drew a plan of what a park would look like.
Did it include roller coasters?
What's that?
Roller coasters?
Yes,
Like
yes.
I thought so.
Highlighted on, some of the highlights were a roller coaster, a pool, a water park, ice cream stands.
Sounds like Disney.
Surprisingly, trampoline didn't make it off on the list, which I'm sure Falco would be happy to not have the liability of a trampoline. But I did let them know that I would share that plan with the council. So I'll get it scanned and share it with all of you.
Wow,
and
thank you.
Councilor Evans, if you'd be so kind to share it with the Parks and Rec Committee. I know that they're working hard on their master plan.
There you go.
So
that's awesome.
Just one more bit of public input. So I just want to thank Mrs. Filingeri and Room 100 for letting me come into their classroom and talk about something that I'm passionate about, planning and making our community, a little bit better. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Councilor. Is there any other comments? Not hearing any, we'll be moving on to item 17, executive session. Deputy Mayor King, please.
Yes, I'd like to move into executive session for personnel issue involving Ms. Amanda Poma, the clerk of the council. I'd like to also invite her to that same executive session.
Is there a second? Second. Any discussion? None? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Not hearing any, the motion carries. I need a motion for adjournment, please. Is there a second? Second. All those in favor? Oh, we're adjourned. Sorry, we're adjourning out of executive session. That's right. In executive session. That's right. Thank you. Good night, everyone. We will be going to executive session and adjourning from there. Happy Valentine's Day.